This is wrestling's greatest moments.
Hey now, wrestling fans. It's time for another episode of Wrestling's Greatest Moments. It's often said that the victors write the history, which, as fans have often seen, has led to wrestlers being left out of the conversation when it comes to their standings as legends or Hall of Famers. As we've examined in our various videos on this subject, there are many unsung heroes from the 1980s. However, what about that era's big men? Sit back as Wrestling's Greatest Moments looks at 5 overlooked and underrated wrestlers, Big Men Edition. Before we get started though, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single video. Criteria. What makes a wrestler overlooked or underrated? A wrestler is overlooked if they've somehow slipped through the cracks when it comes to appreciating their contributions to the industry. On a similar note, underrated could be someone who's received some accolades, but who deserves more. Remember that for some fans, there's nothing overlooked or underrated about these wrestlers, as they appreciate their contributions to the industry. If you feel that way, we hope you'll see this as a stroll down memory lane. Big John Studd. John Minton made an immediate impression on wrestling when he debuted in 1972. And how couldn't he? Billed as 6'10", the man who became best known as Big John Studd had strong runs in several territories during the 1970s, including an early one in the WWF as Chuck O'Connor, and later Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling. Minton donned a mask in the WWF, teaming with a masked Killer Kowalski, the same man who trained him. Working as the Executioners, the pair captured the WWF Tag Team Championship. Minton won the Mid-Atlantic Tag Team Championship multiple times as John Studd, and once as Masked Superstar number 2. While Studd enjoyed championship success in many territories, he's best remembered for his work in the WWF. Studd frequently challenged for the WWF's top title, including memorable bouts with WWF champion Bob Backlund. For many fans, however, Studd will forever be known for his rivalry with Andre the Giant, a rivalry that allegedly led to Studd not leaving, but fleeing the WWF. According to Studd's tag team partner Ken Patera, Big John idolized Andre, so much so that he'd taken so many steroids and growth hormones that he was many inches taller and 100 pounds heavier in the 7 or 8 years between our first meeting and our angle with Andre. However, the authors of the book, The Eighth Wonder of the World, The True Story of Andre the Giant, claim Studd not only idolized Andre, he wanted to be Andre the Giant. Consequently, that's why, according to many of their colleagues, Andre didn't like him. Studd didn't help his situation by entering the ring by walking over the top rope, a spot Andre felt he owned, or demanding the ring announcer refer to him as the Giant Studd. Getting on Andre's bad side never worked out well in the ring, according to Ken Patera. If Andre didn't like you, you were screwed. Andre would stomp on your foot in the corner so you couldn't move, then grab you by the hair. If you tried to run, he didn't care. He'd rip big clumps of hair out of your head. Andre didn't let up on Studd during Big John's last run in the WWF. The Eighth Wonder of the World hinted in the locker room that he was going to hurt his rival. Studd reportedly pleaded with Vince McMahon. "Vince, I can't do it. I just can't get in there. I'm scared to death of this man. He's going to kill me." McMahon dismissed Studd's concerns, telling him that it was just Andre having fun with his fellow wrestlers. That didn't soothe Studd's nerves, and he eventually left the WWF. Prior to his hasty exit, Studd was a featured player in the WWF, working repeated programs against Andre. His best-known angle with Andre saw Studd and Patera beat down Andre the Giant and cut his hair, culminating in their body slam match at WrestleMania. Studd also fought WWF champion Hulk Hogan early in the Hulkster's first title reign, with Studd being used to bring in manager Bobby the Brain Heenan. See our video Madison Square Garden Magic, Brain vs. Brawn for more details. Studd famously teamed with King Kong Bundy, laying out various opponents. The team played an important role in Paul Orndorff's turn on Hulk Hogan as they wrestled a bout against Hogan and Mr. Wonderful that ended with Orndorff flattening Hogan. Some fans have overlooked Studd's many contributions to wrestling. One possible reason is that Studd's final run in the WWF was lukewarm. Big John turned babyface and won the second Royal Rumble, but he was otherwise floundered, never finding his groove as a hero after years of villainy. Some fans are also unaware of Studd's 1970s work, partially due to the lack of footage, but also due to Studd working under a mask. The One-Man Gang. Fans who only know the One-Man Gang from his time as Akeem the African Dream likely have no idea of how capable the big man was. It would be a mistake to dismiss his work as Akeem. Despite the one-note joke gimmick, Akeem and the Big Boss Man had a solid run as the Twin Towers. Nonetheless, his run as Akeem didn't help his legacy, much like the Red Rooster gimmick affected Terry Taylor's standing among some fans. George Gray debuted around 1977 and quickly became a fearsome force in the territories. Mid-South Wrestling promoter Bill Watts reportedly dubbed him the One-Man Gang, the perfect name for a wrestler who plowed through opponents. The Gang was a type of big man promoters loved, someone who looked double tough, could brawl, and had remarkable quickness and agility. His ability to deliver flying elbow smashes from the second rope was impressive, and he was the ideal wrestler to use in injury angles, such as when he took out superstar Billy Graham when Graham's real-life physical ailments forced him to retire. While the Gang only held a few titles during his career, he didn't need titles, as he was just a draw based on his intimidation factor. The One-Man Gang impressed promoter Bill Watts. Watts was impressed with the Gang's abilities. One who really broke through and was becoming a star, as well as a hell of a good worker, was George Gray, who wrestled as the One-Man Gang. George had wrestled for me off and on, and I usually had him with Akbar. He was a big fat guy who didn't have a reputation for being a great athlete, but he had a knack for being able to work, and he was hardworking. He also had an intimidating look, with his head shaved into a mohawk and skull tattoos on the sides of his head. He was always an asset to me. The Gang's 747 Slam quickly helped him get over wherever he worked. Like so many wrestlers who came to the WWF during the rock and wrestling era, the One-Man Gang's success in the territory made him a must-have acquisition for Vince McMahon. The One-Man Gang continued wrestling after the WWF, competing in WCW, where he held the United States Championship briefly. His participation in the WrestleMania X7 Gimmick Battle Royale provided a healthy dose of nostalgia. Ironically, the One-Man Gang switched careers later in life, working as a prison guard, much as his tag team partner, the Big Boss Man, had earlier. Jerry Blackwell. Wrestling has seen many types of big men, but no one quite like Jerry Blackwell. Blackwell was a human wrecking ball. Believed to have stood anywhere from 5'8" to 5'9", Jerry was a true super heavyweight, weighing anywhere from 400 plus pounds to nearly 500. He pimp-slapped gravity in the ring, performing drop kicks with ease, impressing his peers, including Dewey Robertson, who once remarked, "I think one of the most phenomenal things that he did was throw drop kicks. For a man that size to throw drop kicks." Blackwell began wrestling at age 25 and was a fast learner. According to veteran grappler Gino Brito, Blackwell was the type of wrestler who learned from his mistakes and rarely repeated them. Given his size, it was essential that Blackwell protect his opponents, and he proved up to the task. Despite his girth, Blackwell was light on his opponents, with opponent Mike Davis praising Crusher. "He was so easy to work with. He splashed me and didn't even hurt me." Now, mistakes happen to the most skilled wrestlers. Unfortunately, when a wrestler tipping the scales at over 400 pounds lands on you wrong, the consequences can be devastating. Blackwell reportedly injured the Crusher during a match. According to Kayfabe Memories, Jim Zordani, in late July of 1981, Crusher sustained nerve damage in his right arm during a match with Jerry Blackwell. As a result of the right arm injury, Crusher unofficially retired from ring action. It appeared the long illustrious career of Reggie "The Crusher" Lazowski was finished. Over the next 2 years, Crusher worked out with weights rehabbing his injured arm. There are conflicting reports about whether Blackwell accidentally injured Maurice Mad Dog Vachon, but our research suggests it was an angle created to give Mad Dog time off TV. Unfortunately, it's been misconstrued as an actual injury. Unlike some big men, Blackwell was more than a big galoot. Skeptics need look no further than his 2 reigns as NWA Missouri Heavyweight Champion in the St. Louis Wrestling Club territory, a prestige promotion known for its focus on wrestling rather than theatrics, with occasional exceptions. The Missouri title was highly respected and seen as a stepping stone to the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. Blackwell's title wins over Kerry Von Erich and Harley Race are also milestones. Like all the wrestlers on our list, he brought a sense of menace whenever he appeared on TV or at the local arena. It was easy to boo him, so imagine how fans felt when he sided with Shigadna Nalkesi, essentially selling his allegiance to a much-hated foreign heel manager. Blackwell's team with Ken Patera in the AWA as the Sheiks drew money, and the two enjoyed a long run with the AWA World Tag Team Championship. In his memoir, Weight of the World, Patera discusses Jerry's talents. Blackwell, too, was known for his ridiculous feats of strength. One of the most famous stunts that he sometimes performed during live interviews was driving nails into 2x4s using nothing but his head. Furthermore, Jerry was underrated in my opinion. He had seen it all. He had been there and done that, and was the epitome of what you would consider a grizzled ring veteran. Fast forward to the 1980s, and Blackwell became a main event star in the AWA. Hulk Hogan's exit from the AWA led to Vern Gagne turning Jerry babyface, a role he performed well. The WWF was interested in Jerry Blackwell, but according to former commentator and promoter Larry Matysik, Jerry became frustrated when he had to wait in a long line to cut promos and told Matysik, "Larry, when you see Vince, tell him thanks, but no thanks. I didn't get into wrestling to punch a time clock. This is going to be like working for a corporation." Unfortunately, Blackwell's weight problems affected his health. That, and the physical toll of the ring, led him to scaling back his appearances as he ended his career in the AWA in 1989. King Kong Bundy. The man Gorilla Monsoon nicknamed the Walking Condominium was another monster whose career soared when he entered the WWF. Bundy made an immediate impression in the WWF, defeating S.D. Jones in kayfabe record time at the first WrestleMania, and headlining WrestleMania 2 against WWF champion Hulk Hogan in the event's first ever steel cage match. Paired with Big John Studd, Bundy formed an impressive team, so impressive, they didn't need the WWF Tag Team Championship. They were better used as two juggernauts who, as manager Bobby the Brain Heenan boasted, can't be slammed and can't be pinned, playing off Studd's claim that no one could slam him, and Bundy's that he couldn't be pinned. Bundy's WWF career gave him national exposure, but he had a standout career in the territories, dating back to his early years. Ironically, Bundy began his grappling career in the WWF in 1981, working as jobber Chris Kanyon. A jump to world-class championship wrestling saw him play babyface Big Daddy Bundy, an ally for the Von Erich family. Like many Von Erich allies, Big Daddy eventually turned on the Von Erichs, becoming King Kong Bundy with Gary Hart guiding him. Bundy looked much different, as he had hair, but he lost it along the way in a hair match against Kevin Von Erich, developing the look fans came to know so well. Bundy worked in the AWA, Georgia Championship Wrestling, Mid-South Wrestling, and the Continental Wrestling Association, usually as a heel, but sometimes as a babyface. He developed his 5-count gimmick, where he showed his dominance by demanding a 5 count from the referee to give his opponents a fighting chance. Like several big men, King Kong Bundy was recruited by Hollywood due to his intimidating presence, but also for his comedic abilities. The Walking Condominium appeared in a series of commercials for the Vendex HeadSmart personal computer that are worth checking out. His best-known role is his guest appearances on the 80s sitcom Married with Children, where he played Peggy Bundy's brother. Kamala. For some wrestlers, size alone was enough to make them a star, but in the case of James Harris, he needed just a little something more to become a star attraction. Harris honed his skills in the southern United States and Europe. Along the way, his mentor suggested a gimmick that would become very familiar to wrestling fans. He suggested I paint my face and act like a tribal convert upon my return to England. So I tried my hand at face paint experimentation in the ring over in England, soon after our talks. After my time in the UK, he wanted me to return to the Culkins promotion as an unknown man from the jungle, one people would be afraid of. However, Jerry the King Lawler had something similar in mind, and happenstance led to Harris traveling to Tennessee, where Lawler approached him about playing a fearsome heel. As Lawler recalls it, he and Continental Wrestling Association co-promoter Jerry Jarrett had been toying with the idea of a cannibal gimmick, which, as fans of Memphis wrestling know, wasn't the oddest idea the territory came up with. Lawler met Harris and knew that he had his wrestler. There was a feature on Uganda in a National Geographic magazine that took our eye. We said we'd call him Kamala, the Ugandan giant. He was Kimala in Memphis, and then Kamala later on in the WWE. Jerry Jarrett had a big African tribal mask on his wall that he'd had for years, together with a couple of spears. We took the mask and put it on Kamala. I found this painting by Frank Frazetta of a guy and a girl all scared, surrounded by these cannibals. The face of one cannibal had a big star painted on the top of his head, and jagged teeth going up one side and lines on the other, big earrings, and a ring through the nose. The absolute stereotype of a cannibal. Thus was born Kamala, initially Kimala. Manager James J. Dillon claimed to have brought Kamala over from Africa, with a backstory that the savage served as a bodyguard to Ugandan dictator Idi Amin, who was also rumored to be a cannibal. The gimmick was a massive success. Although Harris was a capable wrestler, his gimmick was that of a monster who utilized no wrestling holds, instead chopping, kicking, and choking opponents. Kamala didn't speak and was depicted as someone who not only needed a manager, but eventually a handler. Initially Friday, and later Kim Chi. Kamala's staff did their best to restrain him, but with mixed success. Soon, Kamala was everywhere, competing in Mid-South Wrestling and World-Class Championship Wrestling. A run in the WWF was inevitable, as Kamala was the ideal opponent for Hulk Hogan, whose WWF run often saw him encounter monster heels. Kamala also worked with Andre the Giant. Kamala's program with Hogan did fantastic business, and Kamala earned some hefty paydays. However, he soon noticed his payday shrinking. Despite his talent and an unforgettable gimmick, Kamala was often underpaid and marginalized by promoters. The WWF was hauling in big bucks when Kamala first jumped to the promotion, but the pay was wanting compared to his time in Mid-South Wrestling. The money I made with Bill Watts bought me a house, a farm, a car, trips, and all kinds of nice things. Yet working with Vince McMahon against Andre the Giant and Hulk Hogan, who I know were both making a pretty penny, I wasn't able to afford any nice things with my WWF paycheck. WWF champion Hulk Hogan once told the Ugandan Giant that he was a draw and deserved better pay. Hogan said, "Look man, we put those butts on the seats." "I know," Hogan said. "Well brother, you need to know how to get your money." "But Vince didn't listen," I said. "That's why I left the first time. He won't pay someone like me. There's more money now. He's making way more than back then. You can't take no for an answer." "Threaten to leave, but do it nice," the Hulkster said. "Get your money, because I'm getting mine. You deserve it," he said. Kamala said he met with McMahon only for the WWF Kingpin to tell him, "If you think you can go get money somewhere else, then you're welcome to go." Kamala left the WWF several times and was asked back, but inevitably, he started with a good payday, only to watch his pay turn into less than he could make driving a truck. When Hulk Hogan moved to WCW, he pushed for Kamala to work there, since WCW was doing well, rekindling Hogan's WWF feuds. To Kamala's astonishment, WCW paid him on a per-match basis. He initially stuck around, hoping to get a contract, but he never did and eventually left. Veteran grappler Barry Darsow, a.k.a. Crusher Khrushchev, a.k.a. Demolition Smash, a.k.a. Repo Man, noted, "While Kamala was wrestling matches with Hulk Hogan, who really was the man, Hogan was making millions while Kamala was making pennies on the dollar. If you were Kamala, you had to be happy with it, or just tell them, 'Don't use me anymore,' and leave." Darsow wasn't alone in his assessment of how Kamala was treated. Buddy Landell commented, "Just like me, he got screwed out of tons of money. But I remember James sitting and laughing about it. I never heard him speak evil." Whatever injustices Kamala faced behind the scenes, he was well liked by his fellow wrestlers and created many unforgettable memories for fans. Nonetheless, his ability to achieve much success, despite a gimmick that limited what he could do in the ring as a performer, is often overlooked when fans and pundits assess his career. So, what wrestling big men do you think don't get their due? Share your thoughts in the comments section, and let us know if there are any videos you'd like wrestling's greatest moments to cover. In the meantime, subscribe to our channel, follow us on X and Instagram, and spread the good news about wrestling's greatest moments, the channel that celebrates the squared circle.